Howdy there guys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Ruckus here, bringing you a very belated tank review today. The Tiger P, the tier 7 of the Morse line that got released, want to be the end of last year I think it might have been, is finally getting its review. It's been well overdue. I think the last one was, must have been over 6 months ago. It's been a long time. Stuff keeps coming up and getting in the road. We are going to do a quick walkthrough of the history of the vehicle. It's quite an interesting tank. And then we're going to move on to some statistics. They're not too many, just going to do a comparison on how it compares to the other tier 7 heavy tanks. And then we'll get into some gameplay, and I will hopefully have time to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the tank and how I think it should be played. It should be interesting, so let's get into it. In May 1941, Hitler commissioned the Tiger program under the designation VK4501, VK standing for Fully Tracked Experimental Vehicle in German, I can't pronounce the word, 45 being the tonnage. Two companies, Henschel and Porsche, put forth proposals for the hull, whilst the turret and main gun contract was awarded to Krupp. The Frederick Krupp Company is a story unto itself. The largest company in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century, they produced copious amounts of steel, armaments and heavy industrial products for the Germans during the war years, including the Schwer Gustav, the 80cm railway gun that is the largest artillery piece in history. At 1,350 tons, an insane weapon, 32.5 meter long barrel length, and a 250 man crew. It could fire an armor-piercing shell that was 3.6 meters long and weighed 7 tons out to a range of 38 kilometers, and at that range had 1,000 millimeters of steel penetration or 7,000 millimeters of concrete penetration. Completely insane. Could also fire a HE projectile that had 700 kilos of high explosive in it and had a range of 48 kilometers. Crazy. Rate of fire though was only 1 round per 30 minutes. Henschel's whole design was based on their VK3601H and was designated the Tiger H, whilst the Porsche Tiger P was based on their work with the VK3001P. Although Porsche's development progressed quicker than Henschel's, they ran into trouble with their ambitious Powerplant and Drivetrain system. The Tiger P employed a petrol-electric power plant, whereby a pair of air-cooled 15-litre 10-cylinder petrol engines drove a 500-volt amp generator, which then created the electricity to power the 230-kilowatt electric motors connected to the rear drive wheels. Theoretically, this system would be smoother and more efficient. An electric motor doesn't require a gearbox or a clutch, so the benefits were there. However, they never ironed out the bugs in the system, and the Tiger P was always prone to breakdowns and was deemed to be underpowered and was clearly outperformed by the Henschel design during its trials in July 1942. Also, the copper needed to produce the electrics was a scarce resource in wartime Germany. Only 5 Tiger Ps were fully produced before production stopped in August of 1942. 3 of those were converted into Berge Panzer Tiger P recovery vehicles, but one went on to see service on the Eastern Front as the command vehicle for the 614th Heavy Panzerjäger Company. This is fitting because the 90 or so unfinished Tiger P hulls were converted into the Ferdinand tank destroyer, and these are what made up the 614th Heavy Panzerjäger Company. By the looks of it, the Tiger P we get in Blitz is actually this command vehicle. The Tiger P prototypes had roughly the same armor scheme as the Tiger H, 100mm of frontal armor and 80mm down the sides and rear, but in game the frontal armor thickness is listed as being 200mm, so where's it coming from? Well, after seeing combat service, the Ferdinand tank destroyers were up-armored. 2 plates of 100mm thick were bolted onto the front of the hull, and if the internet is to be believed, the Tiger P command vehicle got a similar treatment. A quick look at the in-game model will prove this quite easily. You can tell that the construction technique used to build Tiger P, or the Tiger H, was welding. Flat plates of armour joined at the seam by heat to create this boxy shape. But at the front, these pop rivets denote something that's been bolted on. These are those 2 100mm thick plates, bolted on the front to give the Tiger P its massive frontal armour. You can quite easily angle these plates to increase their effective thickness to well over 250mm, which is a guaranteed bounce for most of the guns the Tiger P will see. Unfortunately though, the rest of the armor scheme is nowhere near as strong. The lower front plate, although well angled back, -45 degrees, is only 80mm thick. The gun mantlet tops out at 140mm, there's a big commander's cupola on the roof that's only 95, and every other armor surface is a vertical plate only 80mm thick. But to make matters worse, the Tiger P has these cheek plates, 80mm and positioned so that any attempt to angle that front armor or side armor, if you're side scraping, is just going to flatten these plates off down to that pure 80mm thickness. That is an easy pen for all your targets, and this is where they'll definitely be aiming if they know what they're doing. Your only chance to bounce shots is to wiggle the hull in an attempt to throw someone's aim off into that front 200mm or your well angled side armor. For the Tiger program, an 8.8cm Kampfwagenkanonen, or fighting vehicle cannon, L56 was developed. This was based on the incredibly successful 8.8cm Flugzeugwehrkanonen, I think that's how it's pronounced, or anti-aircraft cannon, more commonly known as the dreaded 88, a very versatile and successful weapon that was mounted on a carriage that allowed it to be effective in an anti-tank role as well. This cannon had a high muzzle velocity, around 800 meters per second for armor-piercing rounds, and produced a very flat projectile trajectory that made the L56 extremely accurate and allowed shells to penetrate over 80 mils of sloped armor at ranges of out to 2 kilometers. This often allowed the gun to pick its targets off before they came within firing range. If you've ever wondered what the deal is with this L/number naming convention that's common on a lot of the German guns, it's basically a ratio of the caliber of the gun to the barrel length. So the barrel on the L56 gun has a length 56 times the outside diameter, 88mm, of this shell. In game, this L56 is the first top gun the Tiger P can receive, the one that leads to the VK4501A. It's a decent weapon, but you're going to want to grind out the superior 8.8cm KWK43L71. This was the historical gun mounted on the Tiger II, had a muzzle velocity of 1000 meters per second and could penetrate 130 mils of sloped armor at ranges of 2 kilometers. In game, the L71 features on a vast array of German vehicles. It's the top gun for both the Tiger P and the Tiger H, and also the Tier 8 medium Panther II. It's a mid-gun option on the VK4502A, the E50 and the Jagdpanther, and a stock gun on the Tiger II, the E75, the VK4502B, the Jagdpanther II, and the Ferdinand. Whilst the PaK-43 variant mounted on the tank destroyers has better accuracy and aim time, generally the stats for the L71 are the same across the board. A low alpha damage of 220 per shot, but good penetration values for the AP and APCR rounds, at least at Tier 7. Where there is a big discrepancy though from tank to tank is in the rate of fire, and here we can see that for some reason the Tiger P has been shortchanged. Its 7.7 rounds per minute rate of fire is way less than the other L71s, and this results in a damage per minute of 1694, which is actually 6% less than the average for Tier 7 heavy tank guns. That being said, 7.7 rounds per minute is fast for a heavy tank gun, and when you're firing an armor piercing round with the highest penetration value for the tier, you know you're dealing with a gun that is good at keeping sustained and consistent pressure on your enemies. Now before we get into the gameplay and before you all fall asleep, let's quickly look through the Tiger P stats and compare them against the other Tier 7 heavies. I've just had to redo this stat board to include Tankenstein and the latest bunch of rebalancing changes made to some of the Tier 7 heavy tanks, so this is current and hopefully accurate. Now as we look through these figures, you'll notice there really isn't that much green on the board. I wouldn't say the Tiger P is OP in any way, but it does seem to work, which is surprising. So we start up at the hit points. 1450 has just come up in the latest bunch of rebalancing changes from 1300, I believe it was, so it's now up there with the best for the Tier 7 heavies. View range is also quite good, 250 meters, and the fire chance is on the high end of the spectrum at 20%. The armor, as discussed, is a good news, bad news story. That frontal hull armor is by far the best for the tier. Tankenstein, obviously showing the same hull, has the same armor profile, but it's surrounded by weak spots and it's really only in 2 narrow strips, so you cannot really consider that overly armored at the front. Both the Tigers share the same turret, and it's a weakness for both machines. It's a flat, boxy, no sloping or curves to help out the effective thickness, and the plates themselves aren't any thicker than the rest of the tier. We move on to maneuverability, and again, not great news for the Tiger P. It's a heavy machine, one of the heaviest for the tier, but it has a very weak engine. If it wasn't for the Tankenstein's pathetic 550 horsepower engine, this would be by far the most underpowered Tier 7 heavy tank. The power to weight 10.8, poor, very poor. The speed limit is rated at 35 km per hour, but you're rarely going to see it, and the traverses are not great. Moving on to the gun, probably the best feature for both machines. It's a reliable, high rate of fire gun, as we've seen, and even though the Tiger P gets almost 1 round less per minute than the Tiger H, the gun is still relatively good for the tier. It's very accurate, the most accurate gun for the tier 7 heavies. Aim time is good, and whilst the depression is poor, the elevation is okay, and it'll do the job in most situations on most terrains. So what does it all mean, Ruckus? You might be thinking to yourself, is this thing any good? The stats don't look great, surely it's an average performer. Well, you'd be surprised. I know I was. I thought the Tiger P was going to be a punish, but I actually quite enjoyed it. I think the Tiger P does well because it's quite good at swapping roles. In a tier 7 game, you are well within your rights to push up ahead of your team and use that frontal armor to bully the opposition. You'll get away with it against low tier guns. But in a tier 8 and tier 9 game, you can sit back in the second line and use the L71, which has good accuracy and penetration, to support your team without subjecting the Tiger P's armor to fire from guns that would easily overmatch it. That's the theory anyway, and we'll put that to the test in the first game of this review. It's a tier 9 battle on Oasis Palms Mark II. Myself and Carrick in the T29. These games are old. Recordings were done in January of this year. If you had aspirations to reach the Morse and you were like, oh, Ruckus is doing a review on the Morse line, I'll just hold off until he plays the tanks ahead of me before I get them. Well, I'm so sorry. It's taking me so long to do this review. I've almost finished the VK4502A and I'm going to expedite that review, I promise. Now I'm going to play this one a bit more aggressively than what I just said about holding back in the second line, just because I'm going to threaten these mediums, these 2 tier 8 mediums that are up here in the high ground. They, if they're left to their own devices, will put a lot of pressure on our guys in the valley, and that'll allow the Reds potentially to encircle us, seeing we're all bunched in one spot together. Now you notice that even though we discussed that the cheek plates on the Tiger P are a big weak spot and reduce its effectiveness in side scraping, you still want to be doing this at all times when the situation arises. It's certainly better than sticking out at a 90-degree angle or flat to the enemy's guns. Taking some big risks here to remove the T44 as soon as possible. Panther 2 just took some big hits there, so I'm hoping he's soaked up enough damage that I can poke out and remove the T44. I do take one more hit from him, but we get that gun out of the road, and now I'm taking more risks as I cross out in the open. There will be snipers. That 704 is likely watching this side of the map. I do get away with it though, and push up on the Pershing. I'm going to approach him again. You'll notice me always facing him at an angle. That was a bounce off the top 200mm plate, and I did take a big hit in the rear there, 400 damage. That must have been the ST1. Come over the hill, but you'll notice I come over the hill at an angle to his gun. That's too much angle there, but flatten it. Just there's where you want to be. Pershing doesn't have great penetration, and that one bounces off my side. The Panther 2 is with me, which is good news. He does a great job in supporting me there to remove the Pershing, and we move on. We've got the high ground, and our guys in the valley are now safe. But the Panther 2, he's a bit too keen. You notice the shot there just dips into the crest of the hill. I'm going to hang back until I'm definitely not spotted. And that's why the Object 704, who is likely in the opposite corner of the map, takes out the Panther 2. But I'm far enough back from that T29 that I'm not being spotted. I can put the L71 to good use here. Punch through that guy's upper plate. I'm on 3 kills. We've got Tiger left, a Tiger H. Carrick has gone down at some point. I missed that. And a T95 Doom Turtle, who is now moving towards the cap, which is about all he can do. There's the 704. It's got the BL10. BL10? BL9. I think think it is. What is it? I don't even know anymore, eh? He's got the big gun. Oh, and the red's got a Tiger too. So I'm going to try and intercept the Tiger, who is now being engaged by the T95, and then get him behind this 704. That's the plan anyway. I'm on low health. I can't afford to take too many hits from the Tiger and none from the 704. Fire on the move. Cut this guy off. Head in towards the safety of that hill there in cap. Get an ammo rack, which is a nice finish on the Tiger H. And oh, 704. Move away. Hull traverse 20 degrees per second, not great. Object takes out our Tiger. And I'm going to hide behind the bulk of the T95. No, that's not going to work. Just can't sneak in behind him. He's doing the right thing, running away from the T95. He needs to take me out first. Looks like his finger slipped there and he had a misfire. I hate when that happens. That slowed him down. He's getting nervous though. I think he thinks he's going to get pincered between us two. And he's making his rush on me, but he comes too wide. And he should have stopped there in front of me and taken a hit whilst he pivoted around. But he's moved past, trying to flank me, which doesn't work in a big, slow tank destroyer most of the time. And I'm in behind him. The Doom Turtle has finally crawled around and is also engaging him. And that's all she wrote. Bad luck. Object 704. So first class badge and the Top Gun award for that Tier 9 battle. 2,500 damage with 4 kills, 2 medals. Good accuracy stats, 23,000 credits. And with a bit of APCR fired there in the heat of the moment against that Object 704. On to the second game. This time it's a Tier 7 battle on Hidden Temple. Carrick's in the KB3 for this match. And you're going to see a much more aggressive playstyle from both of us. Straight to the front of the pack. We're going to move up into the hard, flat terrain around the temple, which makes it much more easier to navigate and maneuver in these big, slow, heavy tanks. Flat terrain with buildings is also the preferred fighting situation of the Tiger P. Limited gun elevation and depression means it's a much better town fighter than it is a hill fighter like, say, the T29. So the advantages are all ours as we push into town here. Plenty of heavy tank backup behind us. Feeling very confident in our ability to push forward unmolested. Blocking Carrick there, my bad. Not spotted yet. Targets up, KV1S and a Cromwell. Bounce the Cromwell, of course. Focus the KV1S, who does have the 122mm by the looks of it. But he's targeting our 1S. Look for the track, miss. Cromwell coming around. What are you doing? You can see him looking for weak spots between those two plates of 200mm. Doesn't get it that time. He comes back for a second look and does get it. There's a driver injured. Oh, missed that shot on the KV1S. Carrick's got the Cromwell in trouble though. Splash damage from the T20, who has the stubby derp gun, I assume. Carrick gets his first. Splashed again. There goes my last repair. Keep the pressure on this T20. He's got no chance of penetrating the front of the Tiger P with those HE rounds. Engine fire from Carrick. T20 burns to death. HE damage from the IS as well, who does have the top gun. God, what is going on? It's funny how you can gauge someone's experience with the game by looking at how they react to a situation like this. He's got 2 Tier 7 heavy tanks in front of him. What does he do? Absolutely nothing. Sits there and receives all kinds of fire. We move on. Flat pens are now the next target. Distracted, looking into the temple. Well, now he's seen me. Run, Flat Panzer! Tracked, hit from me, And if I can just squeeze him into this corner here, that'll do. Ah, Carrick gets that one as well. 4 kills for him now. I need a kill. Here we go, Crusader. Surely I can get this guy. Yes, you're mine. No, Carrick! 5 kills now for Carrick. Just a VK 3002M left. Where was he last spotted? Is he out in the flanking ground, or is he trying to encircle us? There he is. Doesn't have enough speed to run away. Shot into the rear, bounces. Carrick shoots him in the rear, bounces as well. OP German rear armor. Will he get away? Everyone's looking at him. Yes! Carrick for his 6th and the Pools medal. Nicely done. Whole heap of medals for that one. Confederate, Sniper, Crucial. 3k damage for Carrick, 2.3 for myself, 1k for that KV1S2. Decent accuracy stats, although a few non-penetrating hits there. 28,000 credits and 1.2k XP. We finished this episode with a tier 7 battle on Winter Malinovka. We've got an extra tier 7, which is very fortunate. Hello phone, thank you. And this finally means I can sell my Tiger P. I've been sitting on this thing for as long as I've been sitting on these replays. It's been hogging garage space in anticipation for this review, so finally going to sell this thing. It's not one of the tanks I like enough to keep. The T29 takes up my tier 7 heavy tank slot, so goodbye Tiger P. I've got 35 tanks in the garage and I'm loath to buy any more garage slots. I feel I'm already spreading myself too thin for the amount of time I've got over those 35 tanks. Though I did just check my numbers, and coincidentally they're doing a garage slot sale at the moment as part of the Tokyo Game Show event. No, I don't need any more. Definitely don't need any more garage slots. Don't need any more tanks. Running quite enough as it is. So Carrick is back again in the KV3. We can move up to the windmill. Nothing crazy here. This is what the heavy tanks do. But I'm going to go to the left of the windmill. Bad luck, SU-85. Double whammy there. Left of the windmill. This allows me to use the terrain as hull cover, and it means I don't have to worry about my limited gun depression to get shots away, as I would have to if I went to the right of the windmill there. It's a better spot for a T29. So, targets everywhere, plenty of opposition here. Carrick takes a big hit, trying to get that first shot off. I think it might have been a derp shot from the SU-152. He's taking more hits. Oh, it's more splash damage, I think. He was set up in a good spot to side scrape, but that HE launching monster there paid to those plans. He's now perilously low health. Got the accuracy to hit this SU though from where he is. He thought he was safe, and he's coming around for a desperate last shot, but aim time is too slow. Easily get the drop on him there. Carrick goes down to the T25 AT, and this is where a fast firing, but you know, even though the gun is low alpha damage, a fast firing weapon is preferable to, say, the 122mm that Carrick had. Lots of reasonably low health tanks, all shooting at me, but with the rapid reload I can pick them off one at a time here, just prioritizing the low health and weakest targets. That Churchill 7 has a lot of hit points left, so, and his gun isn't much of a threat, so I just leave him for the time being. Getting shot from another SU-85, who is not moving to cover, although he should. So shot through my front there. A lucky pen between the two plates. Still sitting out in the open. Kind of side scraping behind the carcass of the SU there. And again, the rapid firing gun finishes him. And now there's just this Churchill who does take out our VK31H, but he's all mine now. Angle that armor, get bounce off the side, and it's only a matter of time. Boom! And that's the review done. I hope none of you were waiting too long for that, if at all. And I hope you got something out of this video. So thanks for watching, guys, and good luck in game. And you'll see me on the next one. Peace.